For another girl, my fiancé dumped me in the middle of nowhere and left me to fend for myself. 3 years later, he showed up with her to bring me back. It's been 3 years, he said. Even a dog would have learned its lesson by now. I did this for your own good. If you don't fix that attitude of yours, don't expect to ever become my wife. They thought I'd crumble. They thought I'd beg, cling to him, and unload all the pain and humiliation I'd carried for the past 3 years. Instead, I smiled. Sorry, Mr. Hamilton, I'm already married. I was just back from the market, grocery bag in hand, when I spotted them. Over a dozen sleek luxury cars crowding the old Hamilton house's driveway. I hadn't seen anything that flashy in years. Laughter and whispers floated over the gates as I got closer. It's been 3 years. Bet that heiress looks like a total backwoods mess now. She's no heiress, just an orphan mooching off the Hamiltons. Does she really think she's something? Exactly. She's not even related to the Hamiltons by blood. Without them, she'd be begging in the street. Then a soft voice, delicate, calculated, cut through their trash talk. Audrey was just young and immature back then. I'm sure 3 years have taught her something. Ivana shit. Lex's precious little damsel. 3 years ago, she'd shown up at the Hamiltons after her dad's accident, all soft-spoken and helpless. And me, I got packed off to the countryside like a problem no one wanted to deal with. I still heard Lex's voice clear as day. Ivana's lost her family, and you're still so cruel to her. She's always been kind to you. Do you even have a conscience? You'll come back when you've learned how to behave. Until then, stay out there. For your own good, Audrey. If you can't change, forget about being my wife. For my own good. What a nice-sounding excuse. For my own good meant backing Ivana no matter what. For my own good meant dumping me in the countryside and leaving me to rot. He knew I was barely holding it together. Now hearing it all again, it was almost funny. Ivana was kind enough not to hold it against her. If it were me, I'd have sent her straight to jail. Someone sneered. Ivana spoke softly. Audrey's still technically part of the Hamilton family. She let her words trail off, eyes glistening like she'd been personally wronged. Ivana, don't feel bad. That fool already got what was coming to her. How do you think she'll react when she sees us later? Oh, that's easy. She'll break down crying, begging Lex to take her back. Lex let out a cold laugh. It's been 3 years. Even a dog would have learned its lesson by now. I did this for her own good. If not, she can just stay here forever. The crowd murmured in agreement. Honestly, I hope she hasn't. That way, I'll never have to see her again. Same. I can't stand her shameless face. But wait, weren't you guys still engaged? Someone asked, a little unsure. Ivana turned to Lex at that, hope flickering across her face like she couldn't help herself. Lex shrugged. We'll see how she behaves. That flicker died instantly as Ivana looked away. And me, I couldn't stop myself. I laughed out loud. I didn't even try to hide it. The breeze carried the sound straight into the courtyard, cutting through their chatter and leaving the group stunned. The guy closest to the gate spun around, his face twisting in shock. Audrey! His shout snapped every head toward me. That's really Audrey Ave? No way. Shouldn't she look like some kind of country bumpkin by now? I heard it all, every word, and I got why they were so thrown off. In their heads, 3 years in the countryside should have turned me into some worn-out, hopeless mess. But instead, I stood there in a chic midi dress and a soft knit cardigan, a camera casually slung around my neck. My hair was smooth, my skin glowed, and even my nails were polished in the perfect nude shade. Country bumpkin? Not even close. Lex's gaze finally landed on me, surprise flickering across his face. Audrey Avenue, he said, his voice distant. Nothing like the soft tone he always used with Ivana. There was a time when that used to wreck me, when I'd cry and beg for answers. Not anymore. Mr. Hamilton, I said, shifting the grocery basket to my other hand, polite and composed. Lex's brows pinched slightly. It's only been 3 years. Is there a need to be so formal? I'm still your fiancé. And this is how you talk to me? Clearly, 3 years wasn't enough time for you to learn your lesson. If you keep this up, I will call off the engagement. I glanced at him blank and bored. What made him think that after 3 years, I'd still feel anything for him? I was 10 years old when I became an orphan. Hubert Hamilton, Lex's grandfather, had brought me into their mansion, announcing my engagement to Lex like it was already written in stone. I was just a kid, but I believed it. Under Hubert's kindness, I let myself fall for Lex piece by piece. Back in those tender days, Lex told me he loved me. He promised that once I was old enough, we'd get married. I believed him, but then Ivana showed up. I watched as everything that was mine slipped through my fingers. His love, his attention, all of it handed to her without question. He spoiled her like she hung the moon, and I couldn't stand it. I cried. I lashed out. I picked fights with Ivana just to feel like I still mattered. All it got me was blame, anger. Then one day, Ivana's necklace went missing. Lex came straight to me, accusing me like it was the easiest thing in the world. Sure, I hated Ivana, but I wasn't shameless enough to steal from her. Besides, my cat, the one Lex gave me for my birthday, was sick, hanging on by a thread. I'd been living in an apartment near the vet to take care of it. I hadn't even set foot in the Hamilton mansion for weeks. I looked Lex in the eye and fought back, held my ground. And then they found the necklace, stuffed into a coat I hadn't worn in ages. Lex hit me. Then he shattered the one thing my parents left me, a bracelet. I'll never forget the sound as it hit the floor, breaking into a dozen pieces. Something inside me broke too. I snapped. I lunged at Lex like a crazy person. In the chaos, Ivana fell down the stairs. After that, Lex shipped me off to the countryside like I was nothing. And my cat, it didn't survive the summer. Lex's patience was running thin, his expression darkening. Just as he looked ready to snap, I raised my hand, the ring on my finger catching the sunlight. Sorry, Mr. Hamilton, I'm already married. His brows pulled so tight they practically met. Ivana stepped forward, clinging to Lex's arm. She shot me that patronizing look, the one you give a kid throwing a tantrum. Audrey, you shouldn't lie. Lex told me he froze all your bank cards. Yet look at your clothes. You're still young. Don't let yourself get fooled by shady people. Her words hit their mark. Lex's gaze dropped to my outfit. He really saw me then, like he'd just remembered cutting me off. His face went stony by the second. To them, without the Hamilton money, I didn't deserve to look this good. Their friends were no better. One of them snorted, full of smug disdain. Audrey, don't tell me you're being a sugar baby now. Out here in the middle of nowhere. He's probably some old geezer who couldn't land a wife. Lex's face twisted. Rage sparked behind his eyes as he turned on me. Audrey Avenue, do you have no shame? If you want to humiliate yourself, fine. But don't you dare disgrace my family. From the look on his face, it was obvious. Lex genuinely thought I'd sunk low enough to become someone's mistress. Lex Hamilton, after all these years, really? Even if you hate me, shouldn't you at least know me better than that? Do you honestly think I'm the type to sell myself for money? I swept my gaze over the crowd, my voice icy. I should be asking you if you have any shame. Did you all come out here just to put on some cheap circus act? I'm not like you useless people. I don't rely on men. And I don't need the Hamilton family to live a good life as well. Lex froze, clearly not expecting me to clap back. A second later, he let out a cold laugh. You don't rely on my family? You don't kid yourself, Audrey. I know exactly what you're up to. You're just trying to get my attention. I blinked at him, then laughed sharp, disbelieving. Did he even hear himself? Trying to get his attention? Dream on. Without thinking twice, I grabbed an egg from my grocery basket and hurled it at him. Lex wasn't ready for it. The egg smacked him square in the face, cracking open and dripping yolk down his cheek. Ivana shrieked like she was the one hit. Lex closed his eyes for a beat, wiping the egg off his face with a slow hand. When he looked up, his expression hardened, his hand shooting up toward me. I stepped back, scoffing. What, you gonna hit me again? His hand froze midair. He let out a sharp exhale, like he was forcing himself to stay calm. Audrey, fine. You're something else. If that's how you want it, then stay here for the rest of your life. With that, he spun on his heel and stormed off. The main act over, the gawkers scattered like obedient little ducks, trailing after him. Ivana lingered, of course. As she walked past me, she leaned in, her voice soft and sugary. Audrey, thank you. If it weren't for you, Lex would never have seen how good I am. I didn't reply. That guy you're so proud of? He's just trash I've already tossed out. If you're happy picking up garbage, then go right ahead.